Isn't it? That's not a cheap magazine to print.
No, it is not.
Jesus. It's so nice.
Yeah.
Somebody who understands our plight.
Oh my God. But what a lovely way of doing it.
Yeah. I think if you're going to do it, you have to do it
Yeah.
right.
Go all
you
out,
know.
mate. How
I
cool.
think we need it.
My God. Hello, I'm Jack Sotti, and I am a hospitality consultant in London.
Okay. So tell us about your journey. So where have you come from? Like your origin story. What is your origin story?
Yeah, so I'm born and bred a Londoner, and I've kind of had a little hiatus overseas, mainly Antipodean, New Zealand and Australia, for just under a decade of my career. But I felt like that was quite galvanizing because Aussie hospitality is quite infamous for being warm and lovely, and I met some very wonderful people over there. I've been back in London for the better part of 5 years now, and in that time I worked at Diageo, just to understand that side of the hospitality industry, to look at how booze is marketed and how it's sold. Selling booze to other bars is definitely not my forte, by the way. Much prefer the advocacy side of things. And then kind of struck off on my own in the last couple of years, thinking that I can get a little bit more of that creativity back that I had when I was a full-time bartender, hospitality person. So now I'm dipping my fingers in pies of brand work, but also beautiful bar work as well.
Do you want to tell us a little bit more about the time that you spent in Australia and New Zealand? What some of the highlights of that, and
So I moved over to New Zealand mainly because my visa for Canada got rejected, which is fun. Don't know why. That's fine. But yeah, got to New Zealand and I was up. We had a guest shift last night with Hey Palu, and Sean from Hey Palu used to work in New Zealand after my time, but he asked me about a story that he'd heard about me, and I didn't realize it became like this thing. But I landed in New Zealand, and I was young and very keen to get a job immediately. I already had my CVs printed out, so landed at 9 a.m. Went straight to the hostel, had a shower, went to the phone shop, got a phone number, hand wrote the new phone number on all my CVs. Did a whole day handing out CVs, and everyone's like, "Oh, we'll get back to you, maybe. We'll contact you in a week." And I also went to I had pre-researched a list of like the 10 best bars in Auckland, and I got rejected from all of them. I went back to one of them that night because it was like 10 a.m. when I went out handing CVs, and I just went in my Hospo Blacks, and it was a really busy club with a luxury cocktail members bar downstairs called 1885. And I just said to some guy behind the bar, "Hey, I've got a trial shift here tonight," and he was like, "Okay, let me get the manager." And some supervisor comes over. He's like, "Oh, who? I didn't know you were trialing tonight. Who booked you in?" I said, "Oh, it's this guy who was working on the day shift." He's like, "Tom." I said, "Yeah, Tom." And I jumped behind the bar, did my 2-hour trial, and then he came over to me. He's like, "Hey, mate, we're really, really slammed. Would you mind just working?" And I said, "Yeah, it's fine." So I worked till 6 a.m. that night, the following morning, and it was really busy. And at the end, he's like, "Mate, thank you so much. You smashed it. What position were you interviewing for?" I said, "Oh, I was interviewing for bar manager." And he was like, "Yeah, okay, cool. Yeah, well, we don't have a bar manager role available, but yeah, we do have a supervisor role available. Like, you got it. Great." And then he said, I was young and it was a nightclub, so we were drinking after work. The sun was already up. And he said, in 3 hours' time, we're all getting on a boat to Waiheke Island for the staff party, because they had a group of about 5 bars. I was like, "Do you want to come to the staff party?" I was like, amazing. I hadn't been to sleep. It was my first day in New Zealand. I got a supervisor job and was sitting in Waiheke in a winery with 100 hospitality staff, and I immediately had friends and a team, and it was the fastest thing I've ever done, I think. And then I stayed there, for 2 years. Met my mentor, who was amazing, Alan Raythorne, and he kind of just pushed me into the competition scene, and was very encouraging. Pretty much signed me up for every competition without asking me. I did all right at that, and then eventually said, you know, we're going to move to Melbourne, me and you, and we're going to open a bar in Melbourne. I said, okay. So then I told my girlfriend, who was my housemate, I said, you're going to move to Melbourne. She said, okay, can I come? And I was like, yeah. But she was finishing her university, so we did 6 month long distance. We're married now with kids, which is wonderful. But it was just like a very strange mentality, and I was just pursuing professional growth over everything else. Now I've got a bit more balance, which is lovely, and I thank my wife for being very patient. Um, but yeah, I went to Melbourne with Alan, and yeah, again, just kept that mentality of pushing, and entered every competition I could, and you know, I won a good amount of competitions out there, culminating with Australia World Class, which was great, and that was really unexpected. Um, and that really kind of put me on the best trajectory, because at the time, a guy called Chris Heisted, really fantastic bartender, worked all over Melbourne, but he's famous for a cocktail called the Death Flip. Have you heard of that? It's like Jägermeister, chartreuse, a whole egg. It sounds gross, but it's delicious. Um, he was running World Class Australia, and I have since run World Class in the UK when I was at Diageo, and I don't know how he managed to get the budget approved, but he got a prize for the winner of a trip around the world in 80 bars. And I think the budget was about 10 grand he got for the prize pool. And it just changed my life, because, you know, in one year, you know, I was, you know, well known in my community, but in terms of the global community, you know, I was very, very green. And you know, one year I went to, you know, Amsterdam for the Kettle One Nolet's 125th anniversary, and it's this big gala thing with like Leon Bridges singing. And then I was in Tales of the Cocktail, and then I did a guest shift in New York, and then went to San Francisco and LA, and um, you know, Barcelona, Singapore. Uh, it was just wild. And then after that, I thought, yeah, this industry is pretty good, isn't it? Um, yeah, so in Australia, I was running a couple of bars, a bar called Eau de Vie, and then after that, Boilermaker House, which was like a lovely craft beer and whiskey bar with 1,000 whiskies on the back bar. Um, and then ultimately, the time came to come home. My wife was pregnant. Even though she's from New Zealand, her parents lived in Spain. Her sister was in the UK, so we all just came back. Well, actually, no, it was we were deciding what to do, and then a guy called Vedran Milosevic, who works at Diageo, called me up. He met me at the global finals in Cape Town, and then again in Miami, for World Class. And so we built up a bit of a rapport. He said, you know, I need a new, um, what was my role? Head of advocacy. And so that's just managing brand ambassadors, which is definitely not as glamorous as it sounds. But you know, lots of expense reports. But crucially, I've been running bar teams, you know, and I knew the product portfolio, so that was a really great opportunity, and I'm very grateful to Vedran for that. So yeah, headed back to UK with a job, stable, baby on the way. Like it couldn't have gone better, really. And then I did a number of years at Diageo, looking after the team, growing the team. I think we went from like 8 brand ambassadors to 12. Um, Developed the world class program, and you know, represented Tanqueray as an ambassador, which is, you know, I was incredibly proud to do so, because it's such a fantastic brand I was obsessed with for years. You know, just being able to talk about such a historic brand for so long, with such pride, and just knowing that other bartenders love it too. It's just shooting fish in a barrel. You know, it's such a easy job. Um, and you know, obviously, getting a corporate expense card to drink in bars is, you know, somewhat of a benefit. Um, yeah, so that's essentially, yeah, how I managed to come home, and what happened next.
Excellent. So tell us where we are. Where are
Okay,
we?
yeah. So today we're in Archive and Myth. Archive and Myth is this lovely, very comfortable, cozy, hidden cocktail bar in the heart of Leicester Square, underneath the Hippodrome.
And tell us a little bit about your involvement in this bar. Like,
Mm.
how did it all come about?
Yeah, so this was actually quite a fun one, because normally, you know, it's my professional networks that will ultimately lead to like a new opportunity with consulting. But actually, my mum got me this gig, which is great. And my mum was a wedding planner for 30 years, and she married a lovely couple called George and Aggie, and they've been family friends since for like I think 15 years ago. And George called my mum up, and he's a proper North London lad, and he just said, "Jane, is your son still doing all that cocktail shit on the telly?" And they were looking for somebody to consult. And yeah, my mum called me up. She said, "Oh, Jack, I think I've got an opportunity for you." I was like, "Oh, shut up, mum," that kind of thing. But yeah, came down and I met George and met Matt and Simon, the CEO and the owner of the Hippodrome. And the Hippodrome, for its history, I mean, it's got a very, very vast and varied history, 125 years of history. But in the last, I think, 12 years, it's been a casino under the under Simon Thomas, who purchased it with his father. And Simon and his dad are obsessed with value and making sure that there's a really good and well priced experience, especially in hospitality, but also gaming. So they've never really done luxury before, even though with casinos you immediately think of luxury. And so I think the time came that they wanted to try out and have like a really special place within the building that they could host their VIPs and their guests. And also there's Magic Mike Live upstairs, so they're like another stakeholder. They've got loads of VIPs, and Channing's in town who wants to come and have a nice place to drink. And so the kind of stars aligned, and they decided they wanted a really, really special bar. And somehow they found me through Mum, which is great. And yeah, that's how I got here.
I love that. You never underestimate your mum.
I know. Hopefully she gets me some more sales this year. That'd be good.
That would be quite good, Mum.
Yeah.
Get on it. So, do you want to tell me a little bit about the name of this bar, because it doesn't sort of, in my mind, doesn't fit with the Hippodrome very well. So.
Yeah. So the team at the Hippodrome, when they approached me, they had a very specific idea for what they wanted in terms of a concept, but in terms of execution, they weren't quite sure how to get there, which is it's where I bridge that gap. But the Hippodrome, it's been around for 125 years, as I said, and there's just so much that has happened within these four walls. And Simon, even though he's taken on the building and put a casino in here, he loves history, and he champions the history of the building. In every corner, there's QR codes you can scan to learn about the history of the building just on the walls upstairs. And so it was built. It was originally a Frank Matcham building, which is one of the most famous theatre architects of the late 1800s, early 1900s, who was responsible for I can't remember the number, but I think it's around 50 odd theatres up and down the country, among other buildings. But the London Palladium, for example, is another one. But he designed it, and it opened up as a circus, but like an indoor theatrical spectacle. And the original, I wish I came more prepared with the names, but the original guy who is the proprietor of the circus, he wanted to create a very family friendly environment. And so whilst London's social elite came down to watch the shows, it was meant to be like a family friendly environment. This is also a time 1900 that the temperance movement was growing, and so it was a completely dry environment. There was no liquor in the building, which is a staunch change to how it is today. But yeah, it started off as a circus, and I think it was a circus for about 10 years. During that time, there were some really, really awesome kind of little factoids. But where we're sitting now was probably just along a wall where sat 100,000 gallon tank of water, and they used to have like live ships inside the building, like floating, and they used to do shows on the ships. And there's all these etchings I've seen of just like these very like stormy style scenarios. My favorite story is just out in Chinatown. They had a stables there with a housed elephants, and they used to march the elephants through Soho into the Hippodrome, and then they used to do like this theatrical show with the elephants, and they had a water slide where they used to send the elephants down. which is just mad, So it's just a weird place, And then so after the circus, and because we can talk for a very long time, it turned into more of a theatre, and you had people like Charlie Chaplin do a show here. You had Harold Houdini. You had the first ever European performance of Swan Lake by the Russian Ballet. Just so many things, And then after that, it turned into Talk of the Town, which I think is probably most famous for, And that anyone has performed upstairs, and that was like dinner and a show, and you had like Ella Fitzgerald, and just everyone, So it was really cool. So a very, very long answer to your question. It's called Archive a Myth because there's so many stories that have kind of been like misconstrued over time, most of which are true, but it's kind of hit or miss. And I think they wanted to create a bar where it felt like it could have been here the whole time throughout all those different iterations. We've just given it a facelift and put in a new snazzy bar station, and so this is like an archive of the stories. All the staff are briefed on the history of the building, and we talk to guests about it, which is really quite wonderful. And then similarly, we've got a load of vintage spirits. Some old dusty bottles were down here. This was actually a storeroom. It was very wet and very stinky because Leicester Square is just up there, and definitely wasn't weatherproof. So there was some leaks and all sorts of stuff. So yeah, there was a load of old took down here. Some old programs from events that are now framed and all around the building. So we just thought it'd be cool to create a bar that feels a bit timeless in that way.
So what kind of challenges did you come up against when you were like trying to get this project happening?
To be fair, I mean, not many. The Hippodrome have been probably the best client I've ever had, just because they really just want the very best, and they're very empowering creatively. Normally, with consulting, especially on bars, there's a little bit of give and a little bit of take, and a really famous chef once told me when I started consulting, just be careful because it sounds great, but everybody wants to pay you, but no one wants to listen to you. And I always remember that, which I think was great. But yeah, with the Hippodrome, no crazy challenges. Apart from slight delays in construction, a few wrong choices of materials that we've had to replace. It's been pretty smooth sailing, really.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
Pretty good. So you want to tell us a little bit about what you're doing with the menu and all that sort of stuff?
Yeah. So with the menu, obviously when you're kind of wanting to build a luxury bar, you kind of need to kind of push the envelope somewhat from a drinks perspective and not just remain, in the safety net of classic cocktails. But similarly, classic cocktails, got this kind of whimsy about them, and also that familiarity. And if you want to build a bar that feels like it's been here forever, you kind of need to feel like you're serving kind of classic cocktails. So we've tried to just reimagine classics with small elements of theatre, tableside, or small elements of innovation behind the scenes, just to add different layers of complexity with flavor without really detracting from what that drink should actually be. There's this duality in the drinks industry between like minimalism and maximalism. This kind of like straight edged glass with no garnish, and then like the very like showy style drink with all the bells and whistles. And so we try to find somewhere in the middle where it's about the liquid in the glass. It's about details with very beautiful, hopefully quite unique glassware, and then little elements that kind of bring the drink to life. There's also a bit of like surprise and delight, and doing things a little bit differently. One of my favorite drinks is the Sazerac Donata, which has got this little chocolate and absinthe cured egg yolk, which is really, really weird. And I'd say you've always got to put one drink on the menu, which is quite polarizing, and different drinks are for different people. You never expect every single person to like one cocktail, so you need to not take anything personally. But the Sazerac Donata, I'd probably say would be the most polarizing. I would probably have I'd say like an 80% hit rate with it. Most people don't order it because they don't like whiskey or brandy, or it says egg custard on the description, so they probably avoid it. But most people that try it just absolutely fall in love with it. It's super fun. and the technique is quite unique. I think I haven't seen it before in cocktails. My other favorite drink on the menu, which is a bit silly because it's by no means balanced at all, is a pousse cafe, which is a really historic cocktail, from the kind of beautiful era in Paris, and it's essentially like the granddaddy to the B52. It's the layered shot, and it fell out of fashion because it had been so labor intensive to prepare. Putting like 10 layers of frozen or liqueurs into a glass over the back of a spoon and hoping that they don't mess up. It just sounds like a nightmare, but we've nailed it now. We've got 3 homemade liqueurs and a lot of kind of stuff which is just delicious off the shelf, like chartreuse, that you really just can't mimic. We've got them all in the freezer. We keep them in squeezy bottles, and we've got this perfect little V-shaped glass, so we can bosh one out in about 60 seconds, really, really easily. And because it's frozen and the densities kind of really firm up, they don't overlap, they don't mess up. And with the squeezy bottles, it means you can control it on the edge of the glass, so you don't need to use the back of a spoon. So it's like, especially bartenders are just coming in and saying, "Can I get a round of piss cafes?" Because it's like this little special thing that they couldn't be bothered to do in their own bar. But I love that that's something we're getting known for. Thinking about getting some hats made.
And they are tasty, even though they're not balanced.
Like, no, I mean,
really tasty.
It's just booze and sugar, but if something's cold enough, yeah.
One of the things that I really like about this bar is the minis. So can you tell us how you came to that decision?
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? Because when since launching the bar, a lot of people, including LXPR, our great PR agency, are saying, this is the trend, and then all the journalists want to talk about the trend of the miniature cocktails. But I guess didn't even occur to me that was like a thing. I just felt like people want to try more things, right? And also like miniature things are just cute, aren't they? They're just so lovely. I think it was kind of born from I was looking through a few different drinks glassware portfolios. I just saw a couple of glasses that were just so cute, and they were so unpractical for any other drink, and I was like, cool, we have to do some miniature drinks in it, simply. But now, yeah, I mean, they've become immensely popular. We only have 4 minis on the menu, and I think we have like 12 other drinks. But the minis are selling just as much as the 12 main cocktails. And I think as we kind of evolve and grow and change the menus, those minis will just stay there because they've become so iconic. We might add a few more. But, I'll show you the glassware because it's so lovely. Since we've got video. Yeah, so here are 2 of the miniature glasses. They're just so gorgeous. You bring them over to a table, and with minis, I think there's a couple of reasons why it's been working really well. I mean, people want value. They're cheaper than the regular drinks, and despite it being miniature, this is still 45 mils, and the only 2 drinks we serve in this are the Martini Minero and a Pousse Cafe. And so, if you're getting a 45 ml martini, it's more than half a drink, and the Pousse Cafe is, both of them are like to the very top. So you're getting really, really good value, but you're also getting the opportunity to try a few different bits. If you're coming in, you say, I'm going to spend like 50 quid tonight. In other bars in this area, that might get you like three cocktails. But if you're drinking minis, you can have 5, which is great.
You're in Leicester Square. There's a casino upstairs, so I'm supposed that you're going to have a mixture of people come in. So how do you deal with that, having such a varied?
Yeah, it's wild. I was actually worried about how it would kind of cater to everyone. I mean, Leicester Square is not a place anyone really wants to be who's not a tourist. I kind of, when I leave work in the night, I'm like, oh my god, get me out of here. But it's quite nice. A lot of guests who make the pilgrimage, I always think of, because they've got to kind of bear the brunt of Leicester Square to get in. They always come down here, and it's obviously a quite calm environment, and they say, wow, this is like a little oasis, which is quite lovely to hear. But actually, surprisingly, we don't have a huge variety of people. I mean, the main demographic is just people that love cocktails and they love a comfortable bar. in terms of the cross-pollination from Hippodrome customers upstairs, you know, we get a lot of their VIPs. They've got different kind of levels of VIPs and different tiers, I guess. But they come down frequently and they can pay with their chips, which is quite fun. You know, and they just want lovely things. And I don't think money is as much, you know, when you're gambling all day, it's just fun money, isn't it? So that they're really great guests, and they just really want to have a nice time. And then everybody else, you know, we get a lot of trade customers coming down, and you know, the drinks aren't cheap down here, but we, you know, I made sure that when we were building it, we kind of baked into the pricing model that we've got a really great hospitality discount that is just like, you know, you don't question it. So it's like 40% off across the board. So, you know, our community can come in and enjoy the drinks and have a nice time without having to worry about, you know, it's, you know, even then it's probably still expensive, but it certainly takes the edge off it. Yeah, we don't really get people that kind of like, it's a hidden bar, so like no, you have to seek it out. And I used to run a speakeasy bar in Melbourne, Eau de Vie, and I thought those years were behind me. I thought that kind of trend had sailed, but you know, the Hippodrome really wanted one, and I thought, why not? If you put it like directly on Leicester Square, you're just going to get a load of vagrants and tourists. So it's good to hide it away, I think. You know, and you know, I think, you know, we've been going for 7 months now. Trade is, you know, is going really well. It's growing day by day, but it's definitely not for the faint of heart to do a hidden bar. You know, you're entirely relying on word of mouth. You're entirely relying on how good your PR agency is, and you just need to be patient in terms of growth. And you know, luckily, everyone at the Hippodrome is very patient. I'm very happy with what we got.
Do you want to tell us a bit about the door then? Because I think that the entry is kind of fun.
Yeah. So the door is it was an idea conceived by Rachel O'Toole, who's the fantastic designer who made it all look so beautiful. I cannot claim any credit for the way the bar looks, apart from like maybe this bit of stainless steel. Rachel, she's got such a great eye for detail, and she's also a great creative because her main day-to-day role is in Hollywood doing set design for movies and for series. I think she just got off of the set of like the new Final Destination movie coming out, which is quite fun. But yeah, I've never worked with anyone who's worked in that kind of field before. But you know, she's just got such a vision and a creative perspective on things. And so yeah, the door, she just dreamed up this door, and then you know, we had to get the fabrication company KD to then make it a reality, which was quite interesting. But you know, they didn't find a problem with it. But essentially, it's this beautiful ornate painted door that you know, just looks like a regular door, but actually, if you take off the painted panel behind it, it's just, I think, probably about 48 sensors. Each sensor is just sitting beside one of the ornate painted symbols, and so the door can be programmed to essentially have any combination of symbols you touch what open like the magnetic strip that opens the door. So when you book a table, we send you the code, and you can just come in and touch the door, and the door will open. But you know, of course, we get walk-ins as well. So we've got a very friendly host upstairs, who will, you know, help guide people what to do. But if in doubt and you really want to come here and the door's not working, I find a little hack. It's just give it a little gentle caress, you know, across a few symbols, and it tends to just open. I'm not sure if we've broken the computer or something, but yeah, it tends to work. Everyone looks at me very strange when I'm just like stroking the door, and then it opens.
So you don't have to go through the casino at all. You can just come straight off the street.
That's right. Yeah. So straight, you know, we're technically on Cranbourne Street, and we always say to people the most visible queue is the Magic Mike entrance. So where the theatre entrance is, you walk through those doors, and within 1 meter, you've got our door there. So yeah, you just avoid the main Hippodrome entrance. This is what we kind of call the hospitality entrance.
Do you have any other projects that you're working
on? Yeah. The kind of always on project is Renee Chin. I work with Alex and Emma Watson. Alex worked with me at Diageo, and you know, after both of our time working on Tancred together, said, my dad is a winemaker. I want to work close with my family. Are you up for helping me design a gin and create this beautiful brand that's inspired by Burgundian winemaking, which is where Chris Watson, his dad, makes wine. So yeah, I've been part of the team for a number of years now. We launched about a year and a half ago. It's going really well. It's gorgeous. Got a great team of marketeers and distillers. I was kind of responsible in the conception stage for just helping Alex ideate what the brand was, helping come up with what the liquid credentials would be, like why it tastes how it does. So we did loads of very, very tiring trips to Chablis to do some R&D. Winemakers were looking at us very strange when we were like licking rocks and stuff. But yeah, product's great. Essentially, it's got 100% grape-based spirit with a little bit of the limestone from the vineyards macerated into it, along with those citrusy profiles. And it's a drink that the ambition was to just have it on the rocks and something you could just sip. And it goes in a house martini down here. It's fun, delicious. And then currently I'm also working with BCB London, which is called Bar Convent Berlin London, which is not confusing at all. But yeah, so Bar Convent Berlin is probably the biggest trade show in the industry. Happens every year in Berlin, and it's just a collection of loads of brands and loads of delicious seminars and things to taste. And the education is headed up by Angus Winchester, who was formerly the Global Tanqueray Ambassador, and has now gone on to do loads of amazing work. But it's, education is one of the key pillars there. And I was so lucky to be approached by them late last year and just to ask if I'd be interested in helping them launch BCB London, which is great. So my official title is ambassador to the show. I don't have loads of work to do, but just to talk about it a lot, promote it, do some content. Then also, crucially, RX are not RX who run the show are not from the on-trade, so they want me to be there to kind of bridge the gap with the on-trade community. The show is on the 30th of June and 31st of June and the 1st of July at Tobacco Dock. Should be very cool. Just getting into the nitty-gritty now of planning it all, which is great.
So Tobacco Dock is such a great space.
It's just got so many nooks and crannies.
Yeah, very cool. What's the future look like for you? So, do you have a
does the future
plan?
Look like? No, I don't have a plan for the future, which is quite bad when you've got kids. Survive. No, I think I love being transparent with everybody I talk to. I think I'm an oversharer. But I've made some fantastic decisions and I've made some terrible decisions since going into business for myself. So this year I think I'm kind of like stabilizing. I think when I first left Diageo, I was very excited about the idea of being an entrepreneur, and I was spinning far too many plates. I think I set up like 5 limited companies, and it was just I don't know. I don't know what arrogance made me think that I could handle that. Closed down most of them now, which is great, and focusing on just one, which is much smarter. This year, just focusing on this stuff. I think I've got enough on my hands, and it all needs my attention. And crucially, just try to work on. I'm really lucky that I've got Renee, which is a brand. It's got a really great platform. I've got the bar, which means I'm part of the community, and then I've got BCB, which means I can give back to the community. So I really want to kind of focus on the London bar community and try to integrate more into that, and just see if I can do more for individual bartenders. Working with Angus on BCB means I get to work a lot more into education. And I kind of miss that from my Diageo days of just constantly talking to bartenders about what they need and what they want. And there's just so much to learn. I think there's a bit of a skills gap at the moment as well. So it'd be good to do more of that, I think. And then as for the future, plenty of cool opportunities kind of on the back burner at the moment. I'm trying to be a good boy and not say yes to all of them. But you know, there might be another bar, might be in other countries. Yeah, so we'll see.
Any plans to go back to the Great Southern Land?
I would love to. Yeah, I mean, Australia and New Zealand holds a very, very fond spot in my heart. It's just hard though when you're consulting. You know, you build an immediate network around you. You know, which is pretty much where all your work comes from. And whilst the industry is global, and I could go back and probably rekindle all my relationships over there. You know, I think I'll just play it safe here for the time being. Although I would like to leave London eventually, because you know it's what we all say. We're just in this wonderful. Everybody in London says, "Oh, I've got to move out to the countryside," but then they never do. But maybe we'll see.
Not me.
No, you love it.
Yeah, I love it.
Okay, well that's great.
But I am originally from Melbourne. So
Yeah.
Probably makes a bit of a
Yeah.
difference. Favorite drink?
Ooh, favorite drink. That's such a hard question, but I would probably be privy to an ice cold martini. Such a cliche of an answer. And if it's not that, I really do love a batanga. You know, nice tequila highball with Coke, loads of lime, salty rim. But you know, it's so contextual to where you are. You know, if you go to Duke's, you have to have a martini. If you're in Guadalajara, you got to drink tequila. You know, I just love tasting the right thing in the right place and really kind of like it. You know, it's like that cherry on top when you're in a certain place and you drink a certain thing. You know, and it kind of connects the memory. You know, my memories of places are always, you know, about what I've put in my mouth ultimately. So yeah, I'm up for trying anything and everything. There's not many things I don't enjoy, to be honest with you.
Oh, and just finally, with your BCB advocacy, helping bartenders, what bit of advice would you give to an up-and-coming bartender now?
That's an excellent question. For up-and-coming bartenders, the advice I would give to them is to be patient, to listen, to not want everything all at once, and to ask questions more than you speak. Really, I think. I mean, it's too long to recite in an interview, but I would encourage anyone to just Google a letter that a really great bartender from the States wrote to himself, to his younger self. And it sounds, it's a guy called Jackson Cannon. And he wrote a letter to his younger self. And I read that when I was 22, and like it was like profound to me. And it always pops up on my Facebook memories every single year. And it was just great, you know, and every single year I reread it and I think, this is great, you know, I'm on the right path. And everyone that I end up working with in every bar, I put it in like the welcome pack and like the staff manual. So yeah, Jackson Cannon's letter to his younger self. Just Google it.